Welcome to episode number 21 of Island by Film. My name is Wes. Today we're going to be discussing my journey with darkroom printing. So why darkroom printing, you ask? Well, I guess it's very similar to the journey that people take when they're shooting film. It's the process that people are interested in and fascinated by. And I think that's precisely why I'm interested in the process of darkroom printing. Everyone who shoots film talks about the magic of experiencing their film developed as they've done it at home themselves or picked it up from the lab. And it's frankly a really exciting process. So I have some faint memories of shop class in the early 90s when I was in junior high, and those memories are actually quite fond. I remember having the opportunity to just shoot pinhole photographs and then developing those pinhole photographs in the darkroom lab in junior high, and it's been literally that many years since I've done that process. So likely what, 30 years later, 30 plus years later, I'm endeavoring to start to learn the darkroom printing process by myself. So not knowing if there's really anybody locally in the area that does it, there's really no resources for me to draw from when it comes to learning it locally. So, but I mean, YouTube is an incredible resource. It's one of the reasons why I like to pour into YouTube and be a part of YouTube, is because of the fact that I can hopefully impart something that I've learned to someone else out there. And I've also learned a tremendous amount. You know, I've learned incredible amounts of information when it comes to darkroom printing from a bunch of different resources, but I'm going to name 3 different resources here that I'm really excited to share with everybody. First one that is I think really funny and super informative, a little bit on the technical side sometimes, but you know, as I'm learning more and more, I appreciate that technical side. It's The Naked Photographer. Now, if you haven't checked out that channel and you're interested at all in darkroom printing, I would really encourage you to do so, because that channel specifically goes through some of the most detailed demonstrations and high production value videos when it comes to darkroom printing, and I've learned a ton. Absolutely learned a ton. The second resource on YouTube that I really have enjoyed is Shoot Film Like a Boss. Now he's producing videos at an incredible pace, and his channel has become really popular and also incredibly informative. One video specifically that I'll actually link in the show notes below is the video talking about making your first darkroom print. I watched that video over and over again to try and burn into my memory the process of actually making a print, and so helpful. In fact, I go back to those videos and watch them over and over again. And as I've endeavored to put my kit together and all the supplies necessary to do darkroom prints, I've been watching every video that he's put out, and so shout out to the creator of that channel. It's a fantastic work. Absolutely love it. I hope you hear this and you know how much you're appreciated in the community. And the last resource that I want to kind of mention quickly here is Ilford's resource. They've got a YouTube channel that goes through how to make your first print, how to make contact prints, how to do all the different parts of the process. And they're very simple. They're very step by step. There's no verbiage along there. It's just video along with subtitles talking about how long to expose your images in the developer, and how long to develop your images in the developer, and of course how to set up test strips, all those kind of things. Yeah, great resource. All 3 of these resources I'm going to list in the description below, so I really encourage you to check this out. If you're interested in darkroom printing at all, I think you'll find it incredibly fascinating. So yeah. So talk a little bit about why I've chosen to do darkroom printing. Well, as I mentioned before, I have a little bit of a brief history as a young child, being in the darkroom and experiencing the wonder and magic as this chemical process works together, and all of a sudden you have an image revealed on a piece of paper. And you know, I don't remember how the process worked from back when I was a kid, but it's actually not that difficult of a process. You know, I think the difference between making a print and mastering printmaking is probably years of breadth and experience. So by no means is this a tutorial on how to make prints, because I'm nowhere near qualified enough to do so yet. But this is definitely a little bit of an explanation of how I went through the process. I'm going to show you a couple of my sample prints that I've made over the last couple of days, and just talk about some of the kit that I've put together. And so, I mean, that's basically what this video is going to be about, and maybe a few of the pitfalls that I ran into. So I'm just going to pull up a couple of prints here. This is the first full print that I actually made. It's not a spectacular image by any means, but you know, I've traditionally shot mostly color, but I'm more and more drawn to black and white. And so I thought, well, you know what better way to kind of really experience the black and white process than to actually make a darkroom print. And so, although this is nowhere near anything to be excited about, it still is quite fascinating that this came out of a vat of developer on a single piece of paper. And so I love that. So on the back here, I kind of took some notes and I wrote the date I made my very first print, because I want to really log this journey, so that as I get older and I flip through the prints and I kind of see how the process worked for me, and you know, and hopefully over time, I'll refine the process. But I shot this image first on Delta 100, and I exposed it for 55 seconds at f4.5. Now, most of the videos that I saw said, you know, you should expose everything probably at f8. That way you get a sharper image. For whatever reason, the enlarger that I have, and I'll show you that in a little bit, it is, the bulb was quite dim, so I needed to open that aperture up to get any kind of an exposure. But after doing a bunch of test strips, I came up to a 55-second exposure. I didn't use a contrast filter, as you can see. Image is very, very flat, and it's kind of washed out up top. Like I said, it's nothing super exciting, but and then furthermore as well, this was shot on Ilford multigrade satin paper. Now, this paper specifically that I found was in a thrift store. I found an unopened package of paper, and this is kind of what started me on this journey. It was $6, and it kind of got me hooked on the idea. So it really was this simple little pack of paper at a thrift store that got me thinking, yeah, I should probably do darkroom printing. And lo and behold, I've really enjoyed it this weekend. So one night later, I made this print right here, which is a remarkable difference between the other one. I kind of put them side by side so you can see the difference between the two prints. One is obviously very, very, very much higher contrast than the other. One of the things that happened to me last night, and this is where we kind of get into pitfalls, I've got this old enlarger. It's a Durst M601 enlarger, and I went to turn it on last night. Chemicals ready, everything's good to go. Turned the enlarger on, poof, there went the bulb. So it's 9:30 at night, and the only place open to go get any kind of a light bulb would be a grocery store. Now, I did a quick little Google search and found out that most people say, yeah, you should use an enlarger bulb itself, and this one takes a maximum wattage of 115 watts, so it's a fairly powerful bulb. So I thought, you know what? I want to print tonight. I want to do this process. Light is light. So I went and got a soft white bulb that was 150 watts, so quite a bit brighter than I would have wished. And in fact, I was hoping to find a 115 watt bulb, but I didn't. So I thought, what the risks are, you know, if you leave it on too long, it'll get too hot. It could be a little bit of a fire hazard. But I'm doing very short exposures, and not for hours and hours on end, because I don't have that kind of time. So I thought, well, what I will do is I'll put that 150 watt bulb in, test it out, see how it works. And as you can see, it worked fantastic. So this one here, I shot at 55 seconds as well. So you can see it's a very similar image as far as the darkness goes, but the contrast is much more. I put a multi-grade 3.5 contrast filter in it, and this is the results I got. I'm actually super proud of this. This is a marked improvement. Now, as I learn some of the more advanced techniques, I probably will burn in that a little bit on top to give it a little bit of a darker, balance out the exposure a little bit. But then again, I mean, this is a journey. It's a process. I'm by no means a master printer. This is just the beginning of it, but it's super fun. Let me show you a couple of examples of some of the test strips that I did here, just trying to find my exposures and where I started off with. So here was one of my early exposures. One of the things that kind of didn't make sense to me right at first was the longer you expose the paper, the darker it is. And that's kind of counterintuitive when you compare that to film, because the longer you expose your film, the more blown out the highlights are. So it's kind of the opposite. So that was a little bit of a learning curve. Here's another example of my test prints where I tested different exposures all the way up. And this is one of my examples where I kind of reached finally before I decided to make that print, and I came in and around that 55-second mark, and that's what a test strip looks like. So let me just move right along, and I'm going to show you some of the kit that I have kind of put together and collected, mostly from eBay and thrift stores and a little bit of Craigslist shopping. So let's bring it on over to the kit. So here I want to give you an example of some of the kit that I've put together in my fairly simple darkroom setup. First of all, this is the enlarger that I decided to purchase. I found this on Craigslist with a bunch of other darkroom equipment. I think I paid $100 for it, which is to me a bargain. This negative carrier alone has proved to be probably one of the most invaluable things for me, because I've used this to kind of refine my digital method for scanning film. So that's been really, really great. This is by no means a review of the Darkroom M601. I may do that on a later video, but so far, so good. It's great. It's got a lens already in it. That's an important component. A condenser up top, of course the negative carrier. This is how you would focus right here, and you would enlarge by raising and lowering that mechanism here. So it's pretty fantastic. It's got a really good solid sturdy base. Right here is the easel that I had that a friend gave me some time ago. This is something that I want to refine the process of a little bit more, because for whatever reason this is an actual 8x10, but it worked. It did a really good job. I think the important thing is that you're able to keep that paper nice and flat and tight to the surface, so that you can get a focus. Now, in speaking about focus, this was one of the things that came with the M601, a focus finder or a grain focuser. So you can actually focus specifically on the grain when you project the image on here before you expose the paper, and you get sharp results that way. So that's a really important part of the kit. I would say essential. These Ilford multi-grade filters. I've had these sitting in a drawer for the better part of 6 or 7 years, maybe a little bit less than that. And these allow for varying contrasts of your prints. And so this as well, I think, is pretty essential to get a good quality, high contrast print. So very, very important as well. This right here, probably the funniest thing, this is a safe light that I made. I did this myself at home. I actually found an LED light at the dollar store, paid $3 or $4 for that at the dollar store, and then I used gaffer tape to stick a solo cup. I don't know if you know what a solo cup is, but it's a drink cup essentially that's red. I thought, boy, this looks a lot like the Patterson safe lights. Now, I haven't tested this yet. I don't know if it's fogging the paper or if it's affecting my results at all. I will be doing a test of this to see if it's a viable solution. I plan on making 2 or 3 more of these so I can brighten it up a little bit, because it was kind of hard to see. It's quite a dim safe light right here. Now, backing up a little bit here, this is pretty essential. This is a Graylab timer. This allows me to be able to time each exposure accurately. And it's basically as simple as selecting your time and then turning it on, and then the timer goes down and shuts the enlarger on and off, and giving you pretty accurate, pretty precise times. So this is a kit I also was able to find one of these on eBay for $10 plus shipping. That was actually a bargain. It was a steal because these things can go for upwards of $100 or more. Then from there, you have basically everything you need to make an exposure. Once your negative's in place, then you have a 4-step process to finishing the image chemically. First step would be using a developer. I've chosen to go with Ilford multi-grade developer because I've heard really good things about it. I like the fact that you can mix small amounts at a time and you don't have to worry about mixing large vats. I considered using Dettol as well too. Hear very good things about that, but I decided to go for multi-grade. I don't know if this is the cheapest method, but you can mix this either 1 to 9 or 1 to 14, and that just changes the time at which it takes to develop your image. Right here is your stop bath, so Ilford Ilfa Stop, and this right here was, I think I paid $10 for it. This will likely last a long time because you can reuse over and over again your stop bath, and that's kind of a really important thing. So if you want to make this an inexpensive process, like anything, it always costs money to get started, but this part of the process is fairly simple. And then the last step right here is your fixer. I have a big bottle of Codafix that I use for developing black and white film. And once again, this also goes a long way, and you can tell when this is exhausted because it changes color. So once again, this is not a tutorial on how to make your first print, but just kind of a little bit of a rundown as to how the process works. So I have 3 trays right here. This right here is my wash tray. Now I don't have running water in this area, but at the same time, I do have the ability to be able to, once the print has gone through the process and it's been fixed, I can now expose it to light, and I can put it in this tray, walk it down the hallway to the bathroom, give it a good wash, hang it up to dry in the shower, and I've got a little clothes hanger that's got some clips on it. Works fantastic. So so far it's a little bit of a rough process here because I'm trying to refine how things will work and how to make things work the best. But yeah, so far so good. I'm really pleased with my results. So in short, this is kind of a quick synopsis of my journey through darkroom printing. I plan on doing more videos going forward in the future. Of course, this channel will be dominated primarily by shooting film and everything around it, but I think that the darkroom process is an integral part of learning what it means to do a completely analog workflow. When it comes to the process that I use now, of course I'm digitizing images so that I can share them with other people, but I'd like to actually kind of get away from that, get away from, of course I'll still share things digitally, but instead of that being the primary means of me experiencing even my own photographs or those around me and my family experiencing my photographs, I'd like to actually explore this analog process with the darkroom as well. Just a quick story before I go. I've got a 19-year-old daughter who's in university, and last night I was preparing to make this final print, this one here that I did with the contrast filter. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to invite her into the space here and turn all the lights off, turn the safe light on, and show her the process. And she was thrilled. Now this is a girl that comes from the digital age, comes from having a supercomputer in her pocket and all of these things, but to see the process of an image chemically appearing on a piece of paper, it actually quite fascinated her. She was even talking about it this morning and enjoyed everything about the process, and it kind of made her think her dad was a little bit cool too, which is also fun. So so anyway, that was just a quick story, but thanks for listening and watching this channel. I appreciate all your support. Anybody that's subscribed out there, that means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoy this content, and I hope you stay tuned for the next video. Thanks again for watching.